Moran is here again, and you spend a lot of day with us, so thank you very much.
It's my absolute pleasure. Mainly because I get out of childcare, and also because it's really interesting to find out that there's a television bin in here playing the World Cup all the way through this. Just
yes,
kind of just in the corner.
We've turned it round now in case somebody actually scores. Your novel doesn't waste much time. It goes straight in. On page 1, there's a heroine masturbating, which is not something you read very often.
It's a lovely, relaxing way to start proceedings, whether it be life or a novel. No, I mean, I found it, the more you're not supposed to write about something, the more I want to write about it. Not to be controversial, but because you're just kind of like, well, why? These are the things that drive you nuts. You know, so much of being a girl is visceral, and you're not allowed to speak about it. Kind of the whole idea when I wrote How to Be a Woman is that each chapter is something you're supposed to keep secret. You know, like menstruation, masturbation, abortion, eating disorders, hair. And so I just wanted to write a whole book kind of going, well, you know, these are the things that will drive us nuts, because the thing that makes us exhausted as women is keeping all those things secret and suppressed. And also I find the whole subject very funny. And also, don't you think it's weird that kind of like that's still a controversial thing? Like, you know, we're on a news show now and we're just talking about war and death and all these appalling things. And yet still, you know, to open a book with, you know, a 13-year-old girl doing something very pleasant and relaxing is kind of like...
Because I guess it's fully accepted, isn't it, that teenage drive for sex drive for teenage boys is sort of, you know, full on. Did you feel it was important to portray girls with a healthy sex drive?
No, hugely. I mean, it's sort of like there's a bit in the book where she's talking about how she wants to be a lady sex adventurer, a lady pirate, a lady sex pirate. And again, just that kind of reclaiming of sexuality. I mean, basically, I started writing the book because I was in a huge fury of anger. And I don't usually get angry about things after reading 50 Shades of Grey, because there'd been a massive feminist argument that we needed to have conversations about female sexuality, and this was a book that finally provoked it. But then when I read it, it was basically, you know, to surmise the entire plot to the whole thing, you know, a young virgin who's not into S&M at all, who meets an older, richer man, who basically says, if you repeatedly let me spank you on the clitoris with a hairbrush, then I will buy you an iPad and let you have a go in my helicopter. And I was like, this cannot be the biggest exploration of female sexuality that we've had, you know, ever. I want to write something that's funny and dirty and true about a girl who wants to do things.
What does the word slag say to you?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I use it quite cheerfully, but I mean, I use every pejorative quite cheerfully. You know, if it's used in anger, that's awful. But I mean, I use it to the cat when it's annoying.
If a woman sleeps around a lot, is that something that you would encourage?
I mean,
that's your lady sex adventure.
Yes, exactly. Well,
yeah.
I prefer the term lady sexual adventure. But I mean, it's quite a good hobby. I mean, the two hobbies that I think sort of any sort of teenage girl should have are, you know, I think masturbation is a very good and very calming one. Maybe to go for country walks, and then the revolution. Those are the three perfect hobbies for any teenage girl. And you know, sleeping around, as long as you know you're doing it safely and with people that you like and stuff. You know, it's just a nice way of meeting people and having quite interesting conversations.
Your novel could be read as a sort of Marxist treatise in one way. It's about the benefit system, it's about what goes wrong, it's about dependency. You know, you say at one point, or the heroine says, everything could be solved with more money.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, it isn't just rude stuff. It isn't just shagging. There is lots of stuff. I mean, the two main things that I wanted to write about it were sex and class. Because one of the things that I'd had repeatedly said to me since I became famous and successful is, well, you're not working class anymore, you're middle class. And even though I speak in this sort of received pronunciation middle class voice, I'm still from the ghetto in Wolverhampton. And but I didn't like the logic behind that is as soon as you have money and you're successful, then the middle classes co-opt you. And so the only thing that's left for the working classes is things that are associated with failure. You can never be rich, you can never be successful and be working class, but there's such a difference in working class culture and middle class culture. And again, that's why I wanted to send the book in the early 90s, because that was the last time middle class culture, working class culture was supreme. Kind of like sort of all the lead up to Britpop, all those bands there, Manchester was all about working class bands. People would pretend to be working class.
Is this where you get your words, your socio-political freak on? I mean, is this... What would you say to young people now who believe politics is a waste of time, that all politicians are the same? Even Jeremy come to that. I mean, yes. What do you say to people who are just starting out?
Oh, no, well, this is the great... I mean, this is, hopefully, if this sells, this is the first of a trilogy. The next one's going to be How to Be Famous, and the next one, and then the last one's called How to Change the World, because I want to write about politics and really explain it to people. Because if you've read your history, I was brought up with a dad who was like a big unionist, trade unionist, and kind of, you know, been brought up very poor, and he explained the history of the Labour movement to me, and about how anything that's ever changed in this country is because people went out and changed it. You know, the people in power will never hand power down to people. You have to go and ask for power.
But is that done through our political system, do you think?
No, it's clearly not currently now. you know, it needs to be from the grassroots up. And sort of one of the books that I want to write is explaining how, because it seems nuts to me that you had a labour movement that, but in a pre-internet, pre-Twitter era, was people just getting collections and talking to each other and sending MPs to Parliament who would represent their constituencies. And now that the idea of doing that, which is kind of why I'm in favour of UKIP, because I find them incredibly inspiring. If this absolutely useless bunch of asshats have managed to get to this point where they control the political debate, imagine if there was a good UKIP who could have these kind of conversations and how quickly they could change things.
And Caitlin, we're running out. Misogyny, I wonder if you think that we missed that, whether my generation or the generation before us sort of accepted it as the last bastion of offensiveness that was okay. You know, we've ruled out race crimes and religious crimes and homophobia, and yet somehow the women got forgotten.
Yeah, no, well, still, there's that viral thing that's going on at the moment about do it like a girl, and just, you know, they just ask a load of people to do their impression of what running like a girl is like and throwing like a girl is like, and you know, being a girl is still seen as a bad thing. It's the worst insult you can do, and that was again where I just wanted to write a book that was about a girl who followed her will and followed her desire and learnt from her mistakes and wanted to be a good and noble person. Didn't want to be pretty, wanted to be good and noble and have a really good time. Those things are key. It should be pleasurable to be a woman, and we still see ourselves as a massive list of problems. And it took me until I was 34 to realise I'm alive. I'm not a massive list of problems. I'm a person who can be useful and, you know, entertaining and work hard and do things.
Caitlin Moran, thank you.